Hey guys, welcome back to the Sylvania Halolight television restoration project. A lot of work's been done on the lower chassis. Let me get you up to speed. I never did find service info that perfectly matches this. I pieced it together as best I could from a variety of sources and reached a few conclusions. One, there should be a cap mounted on top. And the power resistor down below, the 1K, I'll show you in a moment, was original and was correct. Part of the way I figured that out was just by examining the chassis and noticed that there are some threaded holes up here, like this guy, which probably held the clamp for that capacitor that used to be up here. I plan to reuse it with a clamp like this and a capacitor and mount it up top as well. This is not a circuit breaker, as one of you pointed out in the comments on my last video. This is a fuse holder with one end of the fuse just exposed. And you take it out like so. It's a cartridge fuse, but notice one end's a little bit longer, and it has a couple little ears of metal sticking out. So yeah, this is going to the AC line, and it's just sitting all out here for you to grab and get shocked. So you definitely want to unplug the set before you go changing out this fuse, which is open, by the way. I hope I have some exact types like this to replace it with. Otherwise, I may just replace the whole fuse holder with a type that has plastic on it that you push down and twist. Whatever. Now we know that there were seleniums here and they've been replaced, so I'm going to rebuild this with 1N5408s, and one of the caps for that voltage doubler goes up here, and the other one I'll mount somewhere down below. This is the filament dropper. It's about 35 ohms. It does measure okay, but these types tend to corrode on the ends, and it's I would replace it, or, as I mentioned at the end of the last video, there are other options using modern parts. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to replace this with a 1N5408 diode, rated for 1000 volts at 3 amps. It's overkill, but they're very rugged, and I buy them in bulk. I'll put that in series with a thermistor. It's about 120 ohms cold and 3 to 5 ohms hot. This will run much cooler, be more reliable. Underneath, I did order up my specialty caps and replaced all the paper caps. Got a couple 1000-volt caps here, a 1600-volt cap behind. And that guy down there, 0.27 microfarad. It's right in series with the horizontal yoke winding. All the power to the horizontal yoke winding goes through that cap. So it might not look impressive, but that is a good high-quality polypropylene type cap that's rated for pulse duty. So it's meant to handle current pulses going through it. So that should work out well. There's that 1K resistor I mentioned. I replaced it with one a little bit beefier specs. Also replaced that 4.7 ohm resistor that was here with a new guy. Replaced the sprig atoms with these two. But I might not keep them there. So originally those were part of that 4-section cap that was over here. But I'm not crazy about having them right next to a power resistor. I did use a higher rated one than was there to kind of spread the heat out, and I can bend these away a little bit, but if that gets really hot, I'll probably relocate these. I definitely don't want to have caps right next to a high resistor. But otherwise, everything has made sense. Just about done. Just got to rebuild some stuff in the middle. Alright, so let's move on to the other chassis. Let's go back to the cabinet and see if we can get out the rest of the set and start working on it. Here we are on a lovely Sunday afternoon. Perfect time to work on an old TV. Started work on the lower chassis. Haven't done anything with the rest of the set. Let's see if we can get that out right now. As always, good idea to take lots of reference photos or video like I'm doing now. So not only am I sharing this with you, but I'll know hopefully how to put it back together based on this. So as I found out from a helpful comment in a online forum and from the service info, you take this out as an entire assembly. The tuner, this control frame here up on top, and of course the circuit board. I looked at this a little bit. You can see that we've got some insulating bits, remember hot chassis, and then some metal plates that go to the cabinet. I think I take out that screw and leave this attached to the cabinet. And on this side, I see we have one up there and one up there, and again I think we leave the metal plate attached to the cabinet and we take out the two screws up there, and I think I can get a tool in on either side of that Halolight transformer. I suspect there's more to it though. It doesn't seem like quite enough. I'll get this out of the way too. Oh man, this is just that extender shaft down to, I think it's the vertical hold control. Seems like there's going to be some more, but then again, this is kind of loose. I mean, it can really just be 3 screws holding this in. I don't know about that. The speakers, these wires go over to here, and this goes up to that, so looks like we just unplug that down here. The strap goes to the lower chassis. I've already disconnected the CRT socket. The yoke plugged into the lower. This plugs into the bottom chassis, so I think this will come out fairly easily. Now the one thing we have to deal with is how can we power this up on the bench, or can we even power it up on the bench? The answer, unfortunately, is, well, no, not easily. Even if we had a suitable test CRT, I think you can use the 8YP4 and you might need an adapter. We don't have a yoke. We'd have to take all this stuff off, which I would rather not do. So if I take it off, it means I got to put it back on and realign everything. I'd rather just leave it as is. So what could we do? Well, if you're lucky enough to have one of those telematic CRT substitutor boxes that has a yoke in it, and a bunch of wires coming out with alligator clips on the end, then if you can figure out where to clip it into this stuff, or this, you can substitute the picture tube and the yoke. Perhaps we'll do that. Otherwise, you need to put it back together, hook it up, and cross your fingers. Or take the whole picture tube assembly out, yoke and all, which you really don't want to do if you don't have to. But let's start with what we know we have to do, which is get this out. Actually, yes, it is just 3 screws, but there's also a sliding fastener back there, and you have to pull off all the knobs, which came off pretty easily. Got them over here. So pull off the knobs, support this while you remove these two, take out that screw, and then it slides out. I still need to remove that one, and then the whole thing should come out in one shot. I have to admit that is pretty slick. Once you know the tricks to getting it out, it does come out very, very easily. And here it is. I haven't looked at the other side yet, so you'll get to see it for the first time when I do. This switch, which I've been kind of trying to figure out what it's for. Possibly it's the power switch for the Halolight, but it also has some wires going to the board, which makes me think it might be a local distance switch. Yeah, I'll suss that out a little more. And here is the back side. Look forward to trying out the Hacko desoldering gun on this. We have a lot of vertically mounted paper caps to replace. Parts should be here in a couple days, but I have plenty on hand too. There's the couple oddball values I had to order up. Now I noticed that one part was kind of loose. Oh yeah, so this guy loose. See? Broken solder joint. I suspect. Oh yeah, this is one that was really loose. We're going to be encountering a lot of that. So here's a cap that has completely separated both connections. Curious thing though is it hasn't lifted the traces off the board. It's just the leads are, the solder connection is broken off. Cool, so it actually looks to be in really good condition. I'm going to want to reflow everything, and if I get my temperature right and I'm careful, we shouldn't have any traces lifting up. I don't see any ugly old repairs or broken traces and having to bridge them with bits of wire. This looks clean. Good. After that mess on the lower chassis, this makes me feel better. I can handle this. I can do this. My order from Mauser has arrived with the handful of parts I didn't have on hand. Meanwhile, I've been blowing through this upper chassis with the help of my Hecko for 301, I believe the model is. Yes. It's done a brilliant job on this. I've replaced most of the paper caps. You can see the old ones down here. There were a few newer orange drops. Maybe they were okay, but I have to remove them anyways. If for no other reason than they were much larger than the originals and they weren't fitting in there very well. Which brings me to the one problem I have run into. The socket down here just, well, disintegrated, basically. It was kind of being held together by the tube that was put in it, which is the 5AQ5 audio output tube, which I imagine runs the hottest of all the tubes in the set. Also had a shield over it. Well, I went through my stash of new old stock tube sockets and I found this guy, which fits perfectly into the hole, but also remarkably has a little notch there, a little slot cut out, which the tube shield fits into perfectly. So he has his tail coming out with a tab on the end that gets soldered to the board. That fits right down into that slot, and then fits right down into that slot, and it's a perfect match. What are the odds? I just had two of these on hand, and all these holes line up with this. Now, it wasn't just the tube socket fell apart from it being loose and this area being charred a bit. It did lift up one pad, one broken trace to repair right there, but otherwise, yeah, it works a treat. So just pop that in and give you an idea of how it's going to go. Well, there we go. Everything lined up perfectly. Try to show you that on the other side. It's right down there. So get that soldered up and replace the rest of the caps. Got a few more of the old ones. Those are some larger values, 0.15, 0.22. Those will be in my order, and then we have one electrolytic to deal with, which is mounted right to the board with solder lugs going through. I think I'll just heat those up and remove that whole cap, and just simply run the new caps down through those holes. Twist the leads, whatever I got to do to make all the suctions fit. I think there's just 2, maybe 3 suctions in that electrolytic. It's not very big. Putting the final touches on the upper board. There's my replacement socket with shield. I got my parts order in. Just about done replacing all the caps. What I'm working on right now is replacing a little 2 microfarad electrolytic. So there's the old one, and this is my replacement, which is actually a film capacitor, 63 volt, 2.2 microfarad, but non-polarized plastic film. It will work just fine and last a very, very, very long time. Here are my 3 new little electrolytics mounted through the holes where the old can was. After installing those, I started spot checking some resistors. And I saw this one, it looked a little different than the others, a little discolored. It's supposed to be 10K, it measures 2.3. So that got replaced with that new guy down there. The rest measured within spec. So the last thing I think we need to do is check all the tubes. I ended up testing a whole bunch of tubes, both for this and some other projects. Just about all of them tested good, so I think I have 1 or 2 replacements to scare up. Need to reinstall them all. A little bit more work to do still on the power supply here, and then we need to try this thing out. Since the chassis came out pretty easily, I think the easiest way, the most practical way to try this out is just put it all back together, cross our fingers and turn it on. What I'm not crazy about is what if there are some subtle problems? I mean, needs an alignment, a little bit of tweaking. How am I going to do that? Well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it. But I'm going to leave off here for now. When we pick up, hopefully we'll be hitting that power switch and seeing what happens. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.